Hey everybody, welcome to or back to my channel, My Kind of Stuff, and today is a reading holiday horrors vlog. So I absolutely love horror books, but I have not read many that are like holiday themed, and I thought this year would be the perfect time to do it. I really enjoyed all my spooky season reads this year, and even though I feel like the holidays are more a time for romance and fantasy, I'm still in that spooky season mood right now, though you wouldn't know it by my holiday decorations behind me. But I thought, why not read some holiday themed horror books and kind of keep that spooky vibe going while I'm enjoying it? So, the first book that I read that I want to talk about is The Visitor by Sergio Gomez. Um, Sergio Gomez has written quite a few books. I'm still working through all of his backlist, but I read the Slaughter series that he did. It's a trilogy. Absolutely love it, especially the first two books. The third one went a little off the rails, I think, but overall, I still really enjoyed the series as a whole. So I was excited when I saw that he had a holiday horror novella that is about aliens. So this one was really interesting. I think it unfortunately suffered from being too short of a novella. Everything felt very rushed and fast paced, where I think had we had the time to like slow down a little, some of the creep factor would have been more impactful. This one was under 150 pages. So I think we still could have added something here and it still would have fit within like a novella length, but it is what it is. We follow a semi truck driver and some other guy that's just trying to get home for the holidays, but there's a huge blizzard. They basically get stuck, abandoned. They can't go anywhere. There is a diner that they see in the distance, so they go to this diner, and things kind of ensue from there. Um, Once the like alien comes into play, things really start ramping up. We are losing people left and right, and it was just a lot of fun. I ended up giving it 3 stars, but it not in a bad way. Like a 3 star is pretty average for a novella for me. They're not always my favorite, but I think generally speaking, if it's like a holiday novella, that's more the length I want for a holiday thing, since it's generally like just compacted with like a day or two in these characters' lives instead of like drawn out over months or years like a normal book is. So I'm hopeful that I will find some novellas here that I do thoroughly enjoy and can give a 4 or 5, maybe even star two. It's never happened before, but who knows? The next book I'm going to be reading is Candy Cane Kills. And I know that Lexi from Books with Lexi really liked this one. She talks about it all the time. She's added it to some of her favorites lists. So I'm excited to check it out and see what this one is all about. I know it is a slasher, and that's honestly all I need to know. I love a good slasher, so I'm excited to go read this one. I will check back in with you guys when I've finished. All right, guys, I have finished yet another holiday horror book. This time I read Candy Cane Kills by Brian McAuley. In this book, we are following our main character, Austin, who is a young teen, and his little sister, Fiona. Fiona has a physical disability, so she needs canes to be able to walk. His parents are having a rocky relationship right now. Talk of divorce is being like thrown around. So his dad decides he's going to take the family away to this remote college, not a college, a remote cottage for Christmas. Um, and he finds this place, and the lady that owns it is kind of sketchy. She meets him there, but like makes him pay for cash for the cottage, and like it's really weird. She also doesn't give them all the information about this place that they are renting. So they end up going to a diner for dinner and finding out from people there that that cottage was actually the site of a horrific crime and an entire family was murdered in that cottage. And of course, they go back to the cottage and things kind of spiral and ensue from there. We get to finally meet Candy Cane, who is our killer. There's all kinds of fun, I think pretty unique attack scenes. They're very festive. There's ornaments involved, candy canes involved. Uh, it's just really interesting. Our male main character is also um, kind of learning about himself, like self-discovery, learning that he actually is in love with his best friend. So it kind of dabbles into the like LGBTQ area, although it's not like hugely prevalent in this book. But I just thought it was so much fun. I didn't want to put it down. This is actually book 2 in the Killer VHS series. But they're all like standalones for the most part, and some of them are written by like different authors. But I know that this author did write Candy Cane Kills again, and now I kind of really want to try to get to it soon. I might have to knock something else off of my list that I wanted to get to in December because I enjoyed this so much that I really want to read book 2. Um, I did give this one 4 stars, which I think for a slasher is pretty fair. It is a novella, so it was only about 140-ish pages. It is on KU, so I read it on my Kindle. Um, Again, I don't think I've ever given a novella 5 stars. But this one came close. Like if it wasn't a novella, it probably would have gotten a 5 stars for me. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it, and I will check back in with you guys when I have finished my next horror. All right, let's talk about the next holiday horror book that I read, and that is I Found Christmas Lights Slithering Up My Street by Ben Farthing. This one actually came out last December, and I saw it and I wanted to read it, but then I just never got around to it. I think last December I didn't really read all that much. I only got to a couple holiday books, so I'm like really diving in hardcore this year. Um, in this book, we follow Douglas, who is a young kid. Um, his parents are ignoring the fact that Christmas is happening this year because the previous Christmas, his little sister snuck out of the house to go look at the lights up the hill and ended up never coming home. And they found her later frozen in the snow, dead. So that was really unfortunate. So I understand they're wanting to like not really celebrate, but they still have another young kid at home, Douglas, and he is really upset that they're not celebrating the holidays. And he kind of wants to bring that holiday cheer and joy back to his parents' lives. So Douglas makes this plan that he's going to go um, up the hill into the neighborhood and decorate one of the houses that nobody's currently living in as like a surprise for his parents. We also meet a couple of Douglas's friends throughout this story who are kind of trying to help him bring Christmas back to his family. But on Douglas's way home from decorating, he sees this weird string of Christmas lights like in the sewer. And he ends up like pulling some of them out, trying to figure out what is going on with it. But he's in a hurry and kind of like rushes. And then all of a sudden he hears strange music coming and he looks down in the sewer and there's creepy Christmas carolers with no face down there humming. So he runs home, says, screw it, I'm not dealing with this. Tries to talk his parents into going to see the lights, but they're having a bad night and he just kind of goes to his room feeling defeated and like his whole plan was for nothing because they're obviously not going to go look at lights together. But all of a sudden, he sees like all these weird string lights kind of spreading through the neighborhood, and they are growing like vines and quickly taking over. And Douglas has to gather his courage and kind of confront the source of these lights and all the weird creatures that come along with it with his friends in order to save the town and his family. Um, I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It was cute. I liked the story. I think it was well paced. It takes place over the course of one night. So the fact that it's a novella, I think, works for me in this instance where they don't always. Um, I probably would have given it 4 stars if the writing hadn't been so repetitive. Um, I felt like we recycled sentences a lot. Or like I would read something and then I would get to, the end of the chapter or the next chapter and it would be like almost the exact same sentence and I'm like, "Wait, did I just like mess up and reread the same page like 10 times over? Like what is happening?" But no, just things were repeated so often, but it was making me feel crazy while I was reading it because I was like, what do you mean? This you already said this. What are we talking about?" And like I was getting confused reading it because I couldn't tell if I was screwing up because I was reading it on my Kindle. Um, and I didn't know if it was like resetting the chapter on me or like what was happening. But no, I would keep going back and looking, and it was just always the book, just recycling the same sentences over and over. Um, so that kind of brought my enjoyment down a little bit, which is why I'm going with a 3 star for it. But I still think it was a really fun story. It was really well paced. It was very festive in all of its kill scenes. So, yeah, overall, not bad, not my favorite. And I'm excited to read the next one. So, I will check back in with you guys later. All right, I have finished my next holiday horror novella, and that was Christmas Eve on Haunted Hill by Brian Smith. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Basically, in this book, we follow the legend of Silas Herzinger, who 10 years ago on Christmas Eve put on a Santa suit and took an axe to 15 of his extended family members staying at his house for the holidays. The only survivor of the massacre was his youngest son, Luke. Fast forward to present times, we are now following Luke's story, and he's having a very hard time coping with life. He's going through um, just a ton of issues personally with his job. He's having suicidal thoughts. So, definitely, there are some trigger warnings in this one. But basically, he heads back to the house on the haunted hill where his father committed this massacre. On his way, he stops at a local bar. He runs into an old friend and kind of learns, maybe life isn't so bad. Everyone's got baggage, everyone's got crap. Maybe not as bad as his, but like he's kind of starting to realize that maybe suicide isn't the best option. He even goes as far as telling his friend what his plans were to do that evening. Um, he is a drunk, so is his friend. So they both just hang out at this bar, get completely wasted, and then decide to head up to the house on the hill and burn it down and kind of like burn all of Luke's demons away. During this same time, while these men are at the bar, we're also following the storyline of a group of high school kids who basically this house now, because it's been empty for so long since this massacre, is like infamous for being haunted. So these dumb kids are out in the blizzard heading up to the house to go check it out. And this is definitely a very supernatural slasher kind of horror. Those poor kids, it doesn't go well for them at all. Um, but it was just a lot of fun. Definitely a heavy hitter because of all of the talk of depression and suicide with our male main character. But then also seeing him like learn that, maybe life isn't so bad, this isn't the answer. And also him like growing a pair and helping these kids in the house when they get there. Um, it was just a lot of fun. The horror aspect of it, I think, really didn't pick up until the very end, but this one's only 95 pages, so that's, it's gotta build to something before we can just hop right into the slashing, right? So yeah, overall, I think for how short it was really well developed, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I can't wait to read the next one. So I'll check back in with you guys later. All right, guys, I'm back with another little reading update. I did finish Hark, the Herald Angels Scream, which was a short story compilation edited by Christopher Golden. I ended up giving this one 2 stars. Most of the stories were just so boring. There was really only like one standout read to me, and that one was written by Jeff Strand. And it was based on that Christmas Shoes song about the little boy who goes to the department store to try and buy a new pair of shoes for his mother who is sick and in the hospital dying. And he just wants her to have something nice to have on when she has to go meet Jesus. And that song always makes me cry, and just the twist he added to it, I was like, this is so fitting and so relevant to this song, and like that one stuck with me. Every other story in this collection was like in one ear out the other. I didn't care. They weren't creepy, they weren't scary. Most of them were like that dumb horror where it's like, I guess I shouldn't say it's dumb. It's just very repetitive and I don't like it. Like where they'll pick a word and repeat it over and over. Like it'll be like avocado, 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 avocado. And it's like, okay, just shut up, move on. It drives me nuts. And so many of the stories had that element in it. And I was just getting really annoyed listening to it. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Short story collections aren't really my thing to begin with. So maybe this could work better for someone that isn't me, but overall, besides that like one Jeff Strand story, I don't care about the rest. So, oh well. All right, guys, let's talk about the next holiday horror that I read, and that is Snowball by Andre Gonzalez. This is a elf on the shelf kind of story. So in this book, we follow Brandon and Aaron who want to begin a new family tradition of elf on the shelf for their kids. So Aaron goes out shopping and she brings home this newly purchased elf, and they don't even know what horrors await them. During the weeks leading up to Christmas, weird incidents start occurring around the house. They start off kind of innocent, and a lot of it is blamed on their dog, even though they have like this tiny little dog, and the things that are happening don't really make sense. They start blaming some things on the kids, and eventually things start spiraling out of control as we get closer to Christmas. Brandon is missing a ton of work because of this. His tires get slashed on the car. Trigger warning, there is an animal death in here. So, you know, take take that as your word of caution. But I did end up giving this one 4 stars anyway. Normally, animal death kind of is a turn off for me. But I think it was done in a way that made sense to the story. Um, and it just kind of showcased that like spiral and the progression of the incidents getting more and more traumatic. It definitely gets very bloody and gory towards the end, and I just had a whole lot of fun with this one. Elf on the Shelf has always seemed kind of creepy to me, so the fact that this was a horror book basically about that seemed really fitting, and I will check back in with you guys when I have finished my next holiday horror book. All right, I have officially finished two more holiday horror books today. They were both pretty short reads. They were novellas. They also had audiobooks on Everand, so I just blew through them. The first one is Secret Santa by Andrew Schaefer. This one is set in the 80s during the like horror publishing boom. We follow a publisher who has been out of work for a few months, and she's desperate to find work and having a really hard time finding any. She goes to an interview at this prestigious publishing house. They don't generally publish horror, so she's not really a good fit for them. But some bizarre circumstances happen, and she finds herself hired on. And her first job is to find the next horror superstar. So they want someone to compete with like Anne Rice and Stephen King. Uh, and she's struggling. She's also getting hazed by her new coworkers. And during their Secret Santa gift exchange at their annual holiday party, she is gifted this like weird, creepy, demonic looking doll. Um, but she doesn't know who gave it to her. No one's fessing up to it. And all of a sudden, her coworkers start falling victim to a bunch of accidents, and now she needs to figure out what this present means, this cursed object, and figure out what to do with it and how to stop it before it destroys her soul and the entire company. I ended up giving this one 4 stars as well. I thought it was really fun. It was a little over 200 pages, so it was like right in that fine line between like a novella and a full length novel, which I think helped it a lot because I feel like we really got a full story and it didn't feel all that rushed. Um, so, yeah, I had a lot of fun. I do suggest this one. And let's talk about the other one that I read. All right. So, the last holiday horror that I read was 12 Days of Christmas Horror by Rick Wood. This is another anthology compilation. Uh, these were definitely unique holiday horrors. There was like a nativity scene full of undead. There was this murderous, like kinetic fairy. They were all very unique, but none of them were all that memorable to me. There was another Elf on the Shelf type of story in here, but I did like Snowball better. So like these brought the horror more so than some of the others were more like creepy, where these were more like horror forward. But overall, I gave this 3 stars. It was fine. I'm not mad that I read it, but they were definitely weird and gross. So if you're in for weird and gross, try this one out. I'm not the biggest anthology or novella fan, so short stories aren't always my thing. I don't know why I keep reading them. Maybe that should be one of my goals next year is to stop reading them because I am always kind of left a little disappointed. Not always, but most of the time. And that's kind of how I felt here at the end. So, yeah. That being said, these are all the holiday horror books that I have read in the month of December. Let me know down in the comments below if there are any that you have read or any that you could suggest to me for me to try next year. I would be so glad for more recommendations and things to check out. I do have more Bookmas vlogs coming out between now and Christmas Day, so make sure you have your notifications on and subscribe if you're new so that you don't miss any of the upcoming content. Give the video a thumbs up on your way out, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!